when they're telling you, I want to think about it, we don't know. Zach just gave 5 reasons of what they could be thinking about. So if I had a process, it would be identify the issues, isolate the real issue, and solve that. And then solve to the solution of the need that they gave you as to the thing that they're trying to accomplish. So it has to go back to that internal need that they've discussed with you. But you have to identify what the issues are, isolate what the real issue is, and then solve that. Welcome back to another episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. Today we're talking about objections. Have you ever heard, I want to think about it? I want to think about it. Have you ever tried to sell anything? You get to the end, you do your best, you give them your pitch, you try to close, give them your 3 options. They say, well, let me think about it. Today, back in studio, 3 of us. The boys are back in town. We need to play The Boys Are Back in Town, Adam. And we're all hugging. We got Zach, we got Chris, Roger. We're in studio. And we're talking about these objections. They're a hit. People keep asking, how do I handle these objections? I want to think about it is a big one. What say you, Chris Ball?
I know we're this is going to sound weird.
It always does, Chris.
I don't hear I need to think about it very often.
That was my line.
Okay.
We literally just talked about that before we went on air.
Yes.
And then you took
So
it.
no,
You stole my line.
There was a caveat to that. It's very often. Okay.
Not a cavity.
A caveat.
A caveat.
And I will tell you the reason when I do get that, I know exactly why I'm getting it. Okay. And it is typically an affordability issue that needs to be addressed at that point. For me specifically.
Affordability. So It's not anything else.
No, not at that point. Because when I address it, we write the application.
When a client tells you that, what is your reaction? Are you just floored? Do you sit back in your seat and cross your legs?
Sit on the floor and cross your legs.
I'll point and I'll say, what is that? And then they turn around and I run out of the house.
Yeah.
That's typically, or apartment or trailer.
Smashing open that screen door and you're leaving.
Flapping.
Well, you might be on the phone. They say, I want to think about it. Now you're panicking because you know they're getting ready to hang up in about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And you got to try to keep them on the phone.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do, Zach? What's your initial reaction?
I want to listen. I want to find out more. My initial reaction is to be more quieter, more empathetic. I want to lean in. I want to listen, and I want to ask questions on not in a. I don't want to be defensive. I don't want to come off as like taken back. I don't want to create that divide between us. So I want to bridge that gap, and I again mentally I want to put myself on their side of the table, and let's understand what the real issues are, and see if I can easily, calmly, gently have them share with me their anxieties.
Do you have so on the phone, you said I lean in. How do you lean in on the phone and you know you're about 20, 30 seconds away from them trying to hang up because they say they want
Just like this, Roger. We lean in with our voice. We lower it a little bit, get a little quiet. We're listening. We're talk a little bit slower, a little bit more empathy.
But you know they're whining. You can hear the tone. Okay, well, thank you. I want to think about it. Thank you. You can hear them winding up the call. Yeah. You can hear them winding down. You're like, they're getting ready to exit me.
Well, and Roger, I'll say it this
and
way.
on the phone is different than face-to-face.
Well, there's definitely levels to this, too.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Like when you're saying they're winding down on the phone, they're, hey, it was a good time, you got to go. Like that, to me, isn't an affordability issue. If you have somebody with affordability issue, it's going to be more of like thinking, a little bit more pausing. Bingo. It's going to be... Bingo. Well, I think we probably need to talk it over. It's something we need to pray about, or we typically sleep on this. Yes. We don't make decisions in the first day, or we're not real sure. That sounds a whole lot different than, okay, well, we're winding up the phone, or kind of being a little rude or really abrasive, cutting you off. That's a different issue, in my opinion.
Yes, and that's when you do get it. There's different ways you get it, different spots you get it. And if you are getting it early on those front sides, it is because other things weren't addressed. And that is exactly what I was talking about. When I get the the think about it, it's usually sounds more contemplative, like they're thinking through something. They're
Just there's the big word.
right.
Contemplative.
They're thinking. They're
Contemplating. It's
Yeah.
contemplative.
yeah. Yes.
They're contemplating.
They're contemplating something, and their words are actually longer. Well, it's there's some pauses there. It's something we'll need to think about, or I need to think about. They're getting quieter. They're trying to see how it works. That's a different way of handling that. That's why I said that's how I know it's an affordability issue. But if it is that abrasive, it's cut in, they're not addressing or anything like that. That's completely
Okay,
different
so
issue.
we've identified what it sounds like. What's the response?
Right.
What's the response?
Well,
Is there a line? Is there like, I completely understand that. What's your go-to when they say that? What's your go-to?
well, I don't typically get it except for that.
That doesn't
We
help.
get it, Chris.
know.
We get it.
I know.
Is that helping them?
Oh,
Help them, Chris.
do you want me?
Hey, do you want Chris to
Okay.
help you or not?
Do you
Please
want me to
have
give a
Chris help you.
response, or do you want me to help how to avoid it? That's the question. Do you want a response, or do you want to know how to avoid it?
I think first we have to
Yes.
identify.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Like when
Identify where it's coming from,
Yes.
which you have. It might
Right.
be affordability or something else.
Right.
The something else we haven't identified yet.
Okay. So if you're getting it, and it's that push and it's that abrasiveness, you haven't established authority
Or
or empathy. You haven't
Trust.
You haven't established trust. You haven't. They don't see you as somebody who can solve their problem. You haven't addressed the stakes. There are multiple issues on that on that specific objection, but it's how it's delivered. Then now, when they've said that at that point, then you have to start all over. You have to start rebuilding those things you didn't establish in the very front side. That's why I said,
Can I add a disclosure to that?
yeah.
If any of you guys listening to this have not listened to the previous episode,
Yes,
right,
thank you.
that sets this boundary, and you just clicked on this video or this episode to jump into this objection, the baseline, the understanding, the 5 real reasons, the trust, need, want, urgency, money, all of that is addressed in the previous episode. Please go back and listen to that. It will make this episode sound so much more sense, because what you'll find out is there's not exactly a word. We
Yeah,
have to identify it, right?
And if you're watching this and you're looking for a magic word for this specific one, I think there are magic words for different objections, and we'll get to some of those, right? So, like an objection, like I already have coverage on the front side of a call. There are phrases that you can instantly give, and you'll be able to continue through,
Yeah.
right? But on this specific one, if you're getting it, there's a sales breakdown. Like there's breakage somewhere. Like you broke trust. No, we won't say it that way, but
Or maybe not even established it.
yes, you didn't establish trust, right?
Let me ask this question to you, Chris, because this, to me, this is a very common objection, and it is probably the most complicated objection to address, because we have to first identify at what point in the sit, where is this coming from? Because it's really, they don't really need to think about it. We all know that. We can all agree on that. But if it's coming in trust, that's probably, trust isn't established. That's pretty obvious, because you're getting it early in the sit. You haven't went through anything else. They're trying to push you off the phone. We know that's a trust issue, and how we overcome that is, letting them know we understand how they're feeling, but we try to move into developing a relationship. We know we have to address trust. But the next one, need. Like when this is I want to think about it because they're unsure if they need it or not, or they don't have that need/want emotional attachment. You taught me something years and years ago that I picked up from you. And you asked one question, and it changed a lot of things. So I don't know if this is a magic word, but if you identify you're getting this because the client is unsure if they need or want this, I don't know if you remember what it is.
It's a word or a phrase?
It's a phrase. It's a phrase. It was a question that you asked the client.
Why is it important to you?
No. That's a magic word.
Okay.
But you simply said, hey, I want to think about this. And I think you played a scenario that if they could have this and it was completely free.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. That typically, I don't typically use that on the think about it. That's typically if they say, I thought this was free. That's where that comes in for me. So I can give the gold nugget here if you want. But Yeah, if they do say that the free thing, then I do ask if the benefit was free. If it was a check for $10,000, who would you want to receive it, and how would you want them to use it?
Right. And I think I think it bleeds into this, Chris, because you said at the beginning of this that you don't really get this objection, but when you do, it's basically out of affordability.
Yes.
You know,
And sometimes, like many times, Zach, I'm a fan of the Affordability Close. If you are part of our training, you can find it in our courses, the Affordability Close, or the different types of closings. And I think we have a podcast on that. Is that right? Yes. Adam, we'll throw it in the description below. But that Affordability Close, but this is what I've even learned in the Affordability Close. Sometimes people bite off more than they can chew. And then it's time they see that it's moving towards filling out an application, right? And then they
realize this is actually moving forward.
I committed too much. I committed too much, but I don't want to say I committed too much, so I need to think about it. That's typically what happens. Another one, here's the other issue of the think about it. I think agents are getting the think about it because they stop the process. They put the brakes on.
They don't try to put the brakes on. It's like they turn off the car. It's like they let go of everything. You know, like that you're riding a jet ski, a Sea-Doo, something like that, and you put that tether strap on your arm, so it's got the engine thing. You know, so if you go to fall
key
off,
pulls as soon as you fall.
You go to fall off, and it unplugs, and the engine just goes, and everything shuts down. It's almost like agents do that right at the end because they get stage fright. They don't know how to take it over the line to assume the close and finish, and they come up to the line, and then they're like, boom, they pull that thing. The whole thing just goes.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point.
And then the client is
right?
looking at you going, well, let me think about it. And you're just bobbing in the water. You know, it's just a terrible place to be.
It's from the
He's got a visual.
Dude, I saw you on the jet ski bobbing in the water. It's hilarious.
There's going to be a jet ski in this video somewhere.
It all stems from understanding we all get that same objection, but where is it really coming from? And there is difference. Is it affordability portion? Is it a trust portion? I would agree with you, Roger. I think majority of the time it's the lack of setting expectations and assuming a sale. Like you literally stop moving forward. It's literally designed inside of our presentation that we have to then move forward in those transition periods of asking those health questions and then literally telling the client, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that.
Yeah, setting the table.
Yeah, because in those moments, you're staring at them, they're staring at you, you're almost sitting there, and you guys may be guilty of this. I was at some point. What are you really expecting them to say? Like, you're just staring at them. Do you think they're going to say, oh, Chris, I really loved your visit today. I think you're fabulous. Is there any way, or do you know anybody that can help me apply for this benefit and make sure it's taken care of
right now?
Like, how do I get this
How
in
do I
place?
do that
I'm really
now?
unsure.
No one's saying that.
They're not going to.
No.
Why are we waiting for that, or why are we expecting that to come? Because it's not going to come.
Yeah.
So practically, just so agents are aware of how this works, if you're going through your script and you're giving, we'll just say quotes, which is a dirty word, you're giving quotes to them, and that's your mindset, right? What do you do with quotes?
You think about them.
You think about quotes every time. Can I get some quotes because I want to think about the quotes? You say quotes, you're setting an expectation that they're going to think about it. You've already
just by saying the word quote.
You did it.
Quotes are like going to Costco and getting samples. You want to taste them all, but you don't really have intentions to buy.
Right.
Not today, anyway.
Yeah.
You might want to buy, but not today. You're getting quotes.
You're getting quotes.
So don't give the quotes.
So that's that first part. The
no
other
quotes given.
Is you're giving that's a good T-shirt. Who would buy that shirt, right?
Life Insurance Academy, no quotes given. Let's do it, guys. Adam, you're tasked with that project. Boom.
Hey, quote those and see how much they'd cost.
We'll use an affordability close on
We
those.
need 3 quotes on the no quotes shirt.
So, man, so many jokes running through my head right now. I have to shut it down.
And for the people who don't like us getting off track, here come the comments.
Sorry, they're gone.
Stay on track, boys. Just train.
That's it.
Damn
Grow up.
Yeah.
So, that quote piece. The other is you're right, Zach. Maybe you gave the numbers. You weren't strong in your trust. You're not strong in your authority or the stakes, and you gave them numbers, and now they're saying, I need to think about it. Maybe a good cheat code, something you can grab onto, is saying, okay, Zach, this is how it works. I'm going to ask you some health questions, and then we're going to ask, from those health questions, we're going to fill out an application, and we're going to see if you even qualify. Mm-hmm. Okay? So tell me, do you have diabetes? Do you have, I can start going down those health questions, and they get a sense that you're competent. Now, when we say that we've stopped the jet ski, the issue with the jet ski, that's a trust issue. So if I stop and there's a weird pause, or I didn't set an expectation, then they're like,
They're trying to figure out a comfortable way to move what happens next.
Right.
And they don't want to say, I want to buy.
And they won't say they don't trust you. And if they don't get a sense that you're used to moving people forward, they're gone. They're gone. I had an agent I was training, super sweet lady, nicest smile in the world. And she was started the presentation. I was on a phone call. I came in to help her. They had already said no to her. I went through, started to rebuild trust, have these conversations. And she had to step out for a second. And the clients, we wrote the applications. And
who had to step out?
The agent who I was training had to run to the car for something. I don't remember what it was. The clients looked at me and they said, she's not going to make it. She's too nice.
They said that to you.
They told me that.
You're Mr. Heavy coming in, aren't you?
No, they just knew they weren't speaking to a person with confidence and had authority.
Competence, yes.
Yep.
Like
confidence and competence.
Yeah. Can I trust them to move forward? And if they don't move forward, I can't trust you, so I need to think about it. Because you gave me a lot of good information, but maybe there's somebody better who can help me.
It's really, what are they really thinking about? Are they thinking about if they trust you or not? Are they thinking about if they actually need this coverage, which that should be obvious, right? Mm-hmm. They're thinking about if they want to take care of this for their loved one, or are they thinking if they want to do it today? Or are they thinking, can they afford it? Like, what are they actually thinking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm going to rewind now. I'm going to give you hard questions again.
Okay.
You get to the end, and they say, okay, I need to think about it.
So
role play with me.
Okay, so I would say, Roger, based on our conversation, it sounded like to me it was very important that Rose was taken care of, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So you had said that if something happened to you, you wanted to leave something in place that she could take care of the final expenses and stay in the home. Mm-hmm. Based on that, we also talked about your options, that it was clear that doing nothing was an option, and we both even agreed that even thinking about it was doing nothing. And that the final expense option, this was going to meet your needs. But it does sound like you have some concerns. Is it an affordability issue that you're concerned about? And it's okay if it is. I just want to be able to help you solve that problem.
Okay, so you just walked exactly through what I would have done at the end. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when they're telling you I want to think about it, we don't know. Zach just gave 5 reasons of what they could be thinking about. So if I had a process, it would be identify what the real issue is, identify the issues. Let's start with that. Identify the issues, isolate the real issue, and solve that.
Right.
Identify, isolate, and solve. And then solve to the solution of the need that they gave you as to the thing that they're trying to accomplish. So it has to go back to that internal need that they've discussed with you. But you have to identify what the issues are, isolate what the real issue is, and then solve that. Because if it's just this quagmire of many things, well, I want to talk, and we're looking at these other options, and my daughter, she usually helps me, but, I got to look at my budget. You don't know what it is.
Right.
You got to identify those, isolate it, and then solve. And that's where you're going. And so you said, is it an affordability issue? Now it's come down to the money.
Right.
If you've ever been to a timeshare presentation, which those are not very popular anymore because of everything that's gone on in the timeshare industry, they will eliminate all of their objections and narrow it down to affordability until you can't say no to affordability because it makes so much sense, and then you sign. And it's a genius process if you've ever sat in on them. But where do you go from there? So they say, you say, is it an affordability issue? I may say, well, yes and no. Yes and no.
Okay. Let's talk about the yes side of that. Can you share with me how it is an affordability issue for you?
Well, some months I don't have enough money to get through.
I understand.
And so I know adding an extra $80 or $90, however much this is going to be, I don't even know, but I'm assuming it's not going to be $20.
Correct.
That, it's just going to put a strain. I just don't know I don't know how I'm going to pay for it.
Right. So in this conversation, there are pieces that would prevent that conversation, even from this point.
Correct.
Right? Even from an affordability close, like when Zach says his line of, hey, before we even get into this, I want to make sure that you have something in place that is affordable that you're not even thinking about going forward. Yeah. It's just running in the background. And I know it's important to you to have money for birthdays, Christmas, and taking care of the grandbabies.
The payments.
The bills and the payments.
Car tires,
right?
yeah, everything.
Yeah. So those things can come forward. There are other things like, Roger, when I say, I still use the closing line. Like, I'm assuming, Roger, that if we could find something affordable that's going to take care of Rose when you're gone, that's something you at least want to apply for to see if we can get you covered, right?
I love the fact that you repeat that verbatim, man. That just makes my heart feel so good.
You almost repeated my little empathy statement.
Guys, write that down. For those of you, just pause right there. If you just rewind that and have Chris say that again, you might want to rewind it in the video. In fact, say it again and put the graphics up, clip it. That is gold.
When I'm saying that, I'm looking for them to give it to me ahead of time, right? So they may
if we can find you something affordable, I'm assuming that you want to take care of this.
So they will say, this is what they'll say. It's definitely something we need to think about. Okay, now, you and I, we just talked about this, and I just said, you get to decide what's affordable. You get to determine that budget. So I want you to know this.
You tell them you get to determine the budget?
Yeah, you get to determine the budget for
I know
them.
we're saying that right here now, but I don't think our audience heard us say that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to them. So I'm certain you're not going to pick something you can't afford, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You get to determine how much you put in this plan for Rose.
Right.
I'm assuming you're not going to give me a number that's too high.
Yes. Yeah.
Would that be right? Yes. Yeah. Right. So I want to take the pressure off you. This will be affordable.
Right.
Now the question is, do you want to at least apply to see if we can get you covered?
Right. So when you're asking me, how does it feel when it gets to that end? That's why we don't get it very often at that point. Because if you're dealing with it, and I would say this to agents, and we're getting in the car, we're getting off the phone, and this is the conversation after I've done so many trainings, and I would just say, I'm not good enough to sell the way you're selling. I wouldn't do it. It's exhausting. Like, why? I don't know why you keep doing it that way.
It's like constantly reactive.
Yes.
It's constant rebuttals. Mm-hmm. They're trying to hurry up and get to the presentation so they can give the quotes.
Yes.
And they're hoping somebody picks a quote because they think, I got to get to the end to give them a quote to hopefully get an app.
Yeah.
So really the whole conversation isn't addressing this rebuttal. It's preventing it from happening.
Addressing the rebuttal before you ever get it.
Exactly. Yes. Like my line,
address
Chris,
the elephant in the room before you ever get it.
I literally crafted and added this piece to my presentation, and I said it time in and time out. I never got the objection ever again because it actually incorporates multiple in that. You know, when we come down, and again, I'm maintaining control and moving through, and I say, now, Mr. Roger, I want you to know that affordability is the most important thing to me. We have to make sure that you can afford this on holidays, birthdays, and weekends because I know, Mr. Roger, you being on a fixed budget, you still have to live, right?
Yes, I do.
Some people I sit with, they want 10 or 20,000 or some amount of insurance they have in their mind. But if they can't afford exactly that amount they have in their mind, then they choose to not do anything. But that doesn't make any sense to me, Mr. Roger, because some thousand is greater than no thousand, right? It would be a whole lot easier for Rose to come up with an extra one or two if she had to because she knew you did your best, than it would be for her to try to come up with all 8 or 10 or 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also assuming that if there was money left over in your budget, you would want to make sure you left her as much as you absolutely can, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm addressing both ends of every objection you can get there. I'm sensitive.
Before you even get to it.
I'm sensitive to their income, right? So I'm addressing that I know you're on fixed income. I know you're limited. I know you're on Social Security or disability. I know things are tight. But I also am very aware that we can't put something in your budget that you will not be able to afford because you do have bills. You do have Christmas. Guess what? It's going to come next year too. Like you do have things that are going to be reoccurring. So we got to be sensitive to that. I'm already thinking about that for you. But then also I'm addressing the people that go, well, what's 10,000? These are the quote getters. And if you guys know what I'm talking about is the ones where they tell you how much is this and you give them a quote. Again, no quotes given. Because because you know what happens, because at that, then you always get that one to think about it after you listen to what they tell you to do, right? So I'm telling them there's some people that want this or that, but if they, in their mind, if they can't afford this or that,
They choose nothing.
they choose nothing.
Right.
So I'm already eliminating that whole conversation as well.
Because you're addressing the objection
Exactly.
before you ever get the objection.
Exactly. And then you add on to it that some thousands better than no thousands. That it's okay. I'm edifying you as a man, as a husband, as a father, whoever, that we're going to do our best, and we're going to take care as much of our responsibility as we can because you're a good person.
Right.
And we're not going to be ashamed of the amount. So that opens the door for a $2,500 policy or $7,300 because that's what they can afford. It doesn't have to be cookie cutter amounts.
Correct.
And then at the very end of that, I'm letting them know that, hey, we're not just talking them down to the very lowest budget you possibly can. If there's money left over on a budget, I'm assuming you want to make sure you left Rose as much as possible to live and thrive. Now we're adding the top end of that as well. So now we've generated curiosity, we eliminated those objections, and now we can actually move in. Again, the whole key to all of this is moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to the 5 real reasons why people don't buy. Everything goes back to that, right? Trust, need, want, urgency, money. Yeah. And if you're addressing and you're establishing trust, you get them to verbalize their need, establish what that is, which is the stakes in our selling process, right? The need. Get them to say it so it becomes a want, and set some urgency. So there's and when I think of urgency in that, I think of a clear path to solve it now with the stakes conversation attached. So why are we solving it now? Yeah. This is important to you, correct? And here's an easy way to solve it. Does that make sense that we move forward?
Right.
And so you're having that kind of, and urgency, and then the money. Money is the last part. So the money is something people always think that's the main reason. It's not. It's always the last one. But it may become the thing that they want to think about because it's an elephant in the room that we haven't addressed. And if you address it early on in those ways, like you just said, you very rarely at the end still get, well, I want to think about it.
Yeah.
I do think there's one piece of that is still a little fuzzy for some people, which is that urgency piece. And this was, I know you taught this to me very early on. Like, you're one of the best storytellers I've ever, you almost speak in story. Like you don't ever speak direct. You just speak in story through other people's lives like all the time. But being able to have a few stories in your back pocket of clients you've helped, or if you're brand new in the industry, of clients that Chris has helped. I'm using a story of a client, using somebody else's story. Can you speak on that, about how that can kind of help generate a little urgency and understanding to move forward rather than, you need to do this today, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us have had personal situations, even motivations for why we got into the business. We saw the financial devastation or the financial tragedy, or how not having enough funds impacted someone's life. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, passed away after a 2.5-year battle of cancer. They were just about to move into their new home. Did they have everything in place? Like, that's a personal story that comes out. Nobody's ready for those moments. We all have people in our lives. And so when just in telling that little story and using their names and putting, a face to the names of the stakes for them and letting them see themselves in that same situation. Chris, one of the things that I appreciated about you early on, because I appreciate you telling the story, but one of the stories that I was reminded of with Chris was he said, let's talk about your daughter, Katrina. If something were to happen to you today and Katrina's in that funeral home on Friday trying to deal with this, how does she deal with it without these things put in place? And how does that make her feel? What is she going to do? Where does she get the money? How would you want her to approach it? Mm-hmm. Have you had those conversations? Right. And most people haven't had those conversations with people because it's something we always put off. But I respect you so much for allowing me to have that conversation with you today. Right. And actually taking steps to this meeting. And I know it's an important one. And we can solve this today. But we're going to solve it with your affordability in mind. Right. You get to choose how much you put into the plan for Katrina, and we can start today. But we have to apply. So I'm assuming we can find something affordable for you to take care of Katrina and this need that you know is there. So that Friday situation never has to happen the way that we just described it. I'm assuming you'd at least like to apply for that, see if we can get you covered, right? Right. And that's usually a consensus yes. It's hard for them to come back and say, well, I still want to think about it.
Right.
Well, it adds a level of emotion, and
Correct.
Emotion opens up vulnerability of what's truly in their heart. A lot of people don't want to admit which is crazy how much they actually love their family or how much they actually need this or how difficult their finances really are. They're very guarded, which comes down to trust. If you're able to generate that emotion and those stories and lowering your voice and connecting with that, the more they lean into that with you, let you know that's a measurement of trust in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Again, at the very end, what they're getting is they're getting a piece of paper and a promise. And that piece of paper and a promise, it's so easy for agents to be transactional and make it about a dollar amount and a number on that bank statement. Right when we're coming down to the end, to the close, where we know we're going to talk about budget, we remind them of the stakes. We remind them of the emotional impact, good and bad. And most importantly, we remind them of the names of who this is going to take care of the most right at that moment. That is the key to everything, is that emotion, generate urgency, the storytelling, the connectingness.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as we wrap here, guys, this always goes back to, what is your principled sales process?
Correct.
And if you have a principled sales process, then you understand what you're trying to accomplish. It's not just about the script and what the words say on the script. The script is designed with a structure to accomplish certain things. If you don't know what the script is designed to accomplish, then it leaves you spinning, and you don't know how to move with authority through the presentation, like Zach says, moving through to a natural close. If you don't have that structured, principled sales process, get in our program. Subscribe to our coaching and courses program. Get in the program. Get in there. There's tons of material that you can learn from today, that you can apply today, and then you'll be in those coaching sessions with us once a week, and we can answer those questions for you one-on-one. But we want you to win at a high level. Chris, you got a comment before we wrap?
Yeah, I was thinking about this while you guys were talking, that anytime we talk about this, there are agents who are surprised by it. And, I had an agent that I rode with, and he was part of another organization, and those processes run deep in some of those organizations. And I'm not joking. I mean, we sat down, we were in there 10 minutes, and it was go get your Social Security card, medication list, and your wallet. And I was like, what's happening? What's? I thought I was in a tornado. I didn't know what was going on, And but that's that process in that organization.
That's what was taught.
That's what was taught.
Get to the quotes, close hard, see a lot of people.
Yeah, and the problem is a strong confidence can close, but there's a wake of chargebacks in most cases with those, right? But you just keep running as hard as you can.
And try to outright the chargebacks.
That just sounds exhausting.
Right.
It is exhausting.
So that's happening. So I guess what I'm saying here is this is a little different. I hope you see value in it. If you do, share it. Like, help us. Our goal is to raise the process of how this is done to treat people the right way and help them sell correctly and serve people. So if you see value in it and you're in an organization, elevate it and share it, because we have coaching, we have courses, and we have a principled sales presentation that you can purchase on our website. Like, start making a change. Be the change you want to see. Be profitable.
Be the change you want to see. There's a bumper sticker.
Well, it's Gandhi. Right. Gandhi said it. I can't steal that.
There you go. Well, he made it had on his bumper sticker.
I've said it 3 times, so I don't have to.
That's right. Well, guys, thank you so much for being in this episode. We hope you found value in it. We love it when we come back together and just talk about these things. We hope you like the round table it's not a round table. It's a rectangular table. Discussion about how we do these things. If you find value, can you drop some comments to us? Ask a further question. Drop some comments, because those comments engage dialogue, and that dialogue helps other people win. So we love doing what we do, and we want you to win at a high level. Remember, ethical selling is the willing and desired exchange of value to help move people to a better place. And you can be a consummate professional in this space and make a difference in people's lives when you learn that principled sales process, because it's not just, I want to think about it. It's why they're saying that, how to address it before they ever bring it up, so you can help more families, close more business, and do the things you want to do for your family as a result, and win at a high level. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast.